On March 25, 2025, former President Donald Trump issued a controversial executive order targeting voter registration. This move was seen as a significant shift in the ongoing debate over election integrity and voter access in the United States. The order required proof of U.S. citizenship for federal voter registration, sparking immediate backlash and legal challenges. Critics argued that the new requirements would disproportionately affect marginalized communities, making it harder for them to participate in the democratic process. It mandated changes to the national mail-in voter registration form, requiring documentation like a passport or birth certificate. These documents, while seemingly straightforward, are not easily accessible to everyone, especially those in rural or economically disadvantaged areas. Failure to provide such documentation would bar individuals from voting. This raised concerns about the potential for widespread disenfranchisement, particularly among minority groups and the elderly. The order also impacted federal agencies administering public assistance programs, raising privacy concerns. These agencies would now be required to verify citizenship status, potentially deterring eligible voters from seeking necessary aid. Republicans argued it was necessary to combat voter fraud, claiming that stricter measures would ensure the integrity of elections. They believed that without such measures the electoral process could be compromised. While Democrats contended it disenfranchised minority and low-income voters, they argued that the executive order was a thinly veiled attempt to suppress votes from communities that traditionally support Democratic candidates. This set the stage for a high-stakes battle over voting rights in America. The controversy highlighted the deep divisions within the country and underscored the ongoing struggle to balance election security with voter accessibility. In a significant victory for voting rights advocates, a federal judge in Washington, D.C., has blocked a key provision of Trump's executive order. Judge Colleen Kollar-Kotelly issued a temporary injunction against the citizenship proof requirement for voter registration, a move that has been widely praised by civil rights groups. She argued that the Constitution grants Congress, not the President, the authority to regulate federal elections, emphasizing the importance of maintaining the balance of power. The judge's decision underscored the lack of statutory authority for the President to impose such requirements unilaterally, highlighting the legal boundaries of executive power. Kollar-Kotelly highlighted the potential harm to eligible voters, noting that nearly 10% of the population lacks easy access to the required documents, which could disenfranchise many. This barrier would disproportionately impact minority communities, young voters, and low-income Americans, creating significant obstacles to their participation in the democratic process. The ruling underscored the separation of powers and the limits of presidential authority, reinforcing the foundational principles of American democracy. The legal battle over Trump's order centered on the separation of powers, a cornerstone of the American constitutional system. Judge Kollar-Kotelly's ruling emphasized that Congress has primary authority over federal elections, including voter registration. The President cannot unilaterally impose new requirements without congressional authorization. Trump's order represented a clear overreach of executive power, undermining the legislative branch's constitutional prerogative. The ruling sent a strong message about the limits of presidential power, especially regarding fundamental rights like voting. The legal battle over Trump's order paralleled a legislative fight over voting rights. The order drew inspiration from the SAVE Act, a Republican-backed bill mandating proof of citizenship for voter registration. The SAVE Act passed the House, but faced opposition in the Senate. Judge Kollar-Kotelly criticized Trump's attempt to bypass Congress and implement a policy that lacked legislative support. The SAVE Act's stalled progress highlighted deep partisan divisions over voting rights in the U.S. Voting rights groups and Democratic lawmakers swiftly challenged Trump's executive order, calling it an attempt to suppress voter turnout. Lawsuits argued the order violated the Constitution and federal voting rights laws. The order would disproportionately disenfranchise minority voters, young people, and low-income Americans. Organizations like the ACLU and the Brennan Center for Justice rallied against the order, citing its potential to create confusion and deter eligible voters. Dale Ho of the ACLU declared the order a blatant attempt to suppress the vote and rig elections. The legal challenges underscored the ongoing fight to protect voting rights in America. Judge Kollar-Kotelly's decision to block Trump's order marked a significant victory for those advocating for voting rights and fair elections. This ruling was seen as a crucial step in protecting the democratic process. However, the legal battle was far from over. The Trump administration, determined to push its agenda, vowed to appeal the decision. This set the stage for a lengthy legal process that could potentially reach the Supreme Court. The stakes were incredibly high, as the outcome could have far-reaching consequences. The outcome of this case could shape the landscape of voting rights in the U.S. for years to come, especially as the nation heads towards the 2026 midterms and the 2028 presidential election. The decision could influence voter turnout and the overall integrity of the electoral process. The legal battles reflected deep partisan divisions over voter ID laws and citizenship verification requirements. These issues have been hotly debated, with strong opinions on both sides. The fundamental right to vote hung in the balance, with profound implications for American democracy. Ensuring that every eligible citizen can vote without undue barriers is essential for a fair and just society. The struggle would determine whether the nation would ensure equal representation and that every eligible citizen's voice could be heard. This ongoing battle is not just about laws and regulations, but about the very soul of the nation and its commitment to democratic principles.